Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit more about furthering our discussion on happiness and achieving happiness in this life. A lot of people think that circumstances are what make us happy. If I could get what I want, if I could get the promotion that I'm after, if I could get the recognition, the relationships, in other words, if my circumstances were right, then I would be happy. If I felt good, if I was healthy, if I was young again. But I want to talk to you about being happy regardless of your circumstances, because sometimes you can change your circumstances, but oftentimes you can't. You can't always change the hand that life has dealt you. And so you can choose to be miserable in this life, or you can choose to focus on the positive and choose to focus your thoughts on what's going right. And I want to talk to you about this because it's so important. Because in a sense, we're all living our life toward what we think will make us happy. We're all moving toward what we think will make us happy. But you could be happy right now. Happiness is something you experience in the present moment. Happiness, contentment, and joy is something you experience if you allow yourself to experience it. You naturally want to be a happy person. You naturally want to be content in this life. It's when you can remove the obstacles to that contentment. It happens in our thoughts. It happens in our mind. If you think you need something to be happy, then you can't be happy until you get what you need. If you think that you can't be happy because somebody said something to you that was hurtful, then you can't be happy until you go work it out with that person, until they take it back and say they're sorry. Even then, the hurtful word has already been said. What you can do is you can focus your attention on what makes you happy, or you can focus your attention on what is negative that causes you suffering and pain. When you focus all of your attention on what you don't have, guess what you're going to feel? You're going to feel frustrated, empty, and you're going to feel unhappy, unfulfilled. When you focus your attention on what you don't possess, on what you haven't attained, you're going to feel that sense of lack in your life that's going to create a discontent in your life. Discontented people are not happy people. But you can focus your attention on other things. I don't think we think about it very often. We're lazy with our minds. We're lazy in what we think about. We don't necessarily think about what we think about. But when we can get in control of our minds and we can focus our attention on what we have, when we can focus our attention on what is in front of us, what's present to us, we can find ourselves a lot more content and a lot more happy in this life. Let me give you some examples and talk about this. Let me give some examples of what I mean and talk about this a little further. Suppose your mood is high, okay, and you're just feeling like everything's okay in this life. You feel a general sense of happiness, a lighter sense to life. You just, for whatever reasons, you can't always put your finger on it, but you just feel like you're generally feeling well, okay? So you're just moving through life without a lot of concern. It's just one of those days where it's sunny outside and you're moving through life without a lot of concern. You're just going through your day, maybe whistling to yourself. Everything seems to be fine, right? And then somebody says something to you that's sharp, or pointed or hurtful. Maybe they just say something to you that, they call you a name. Or you're checking out at a cash register and somebody says something off color to you, or something ugly to you, or somebody at work says something that's not friendly. Somebody says something about the last presentation you made at work that that whatever. They say something that's just irritating, or somebody cuts you off in traffic, or there's a person in the checkout line who doesn't know how to use their card. Or whatever, it's just something to frustrate you. Now, if you focus your attention on that event, you focus your attention on those words that were said, you don't have to, but we do. You don't have to give it any attention. You could just ignore what people said. You could just ignore, what the hurtful thing somebody said. Somebody walked past you and said that they don't like your shirt, or that they think you're a glory hog, or they think you're you're annoying, or your laughter is annoying, or whatever. You could think about that, and if you decide to let your mind think about that, guess where it's going to take you? It's going to take you in a logical progression toward a lower state or a lower mood. Okay? In other words, if you give attention to something that's negative in your life, if you focus your attention on it and say, well, I wonder what they mean by that. I wonder why they said that. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that that's true. Realize they may have been in a low mood when they said it. So you're in a high mood. Everything seems to be going right. You don't have a care in the world. You're just moving through life. And you bump into this person who's in a lower mood. And they say something or they do something. They flip you off when they're driving, or they say something off color to you, or they are rude to you. And they're in their low state, right? Now, when you focus your attention on what was said and why did they say that, and I don't think I felt like I deserved that, and I can't believe they said that to me, and I can't believe they did that to me, guess what will happen to your mood? The more attention you give that event in your life, the lower your mood is going to go until you are in an unhealthy state, until you are in a low mood. Okay? Now think about this when you deal with like parenting or marriage or something like that. If your wife is in a low mood and she says something that seems kind of nasty to you. She says something like, you're always doing that, or you're just like your dad, or or I can't believe you were supposed to pick up the kids and you're always like this, and whatever. Something that's just irritating. If you decide to let your mind focus on what was said, guess what's going to happen to your mood? You're going to start to argue with yourself. Or you might actually argue directly. And the more you argue, the more both of your moods are going to drop, okay? And then we're both going to say things at this level that we would never say when we were feeling great. We would never say these things to each other. They would not be problems to us. But all of a sudden, everything seems like a problem. When you're down in this lower mood, everything seems like it's a problem. This is not when you are best ready to handle life's problems down here, because you're going to say things in anger, you're going to say things in frustration that you would never say or never be a problem to you when you're up here. But you get brought down to this lower mood because you're thinking about what was said and why did they say that and how could they say that to me, and I don't think that's fair, and I can't believe that after all this time and all this investment that person's going to bring you down. When really, you could just not think about it. What if you just didn't think? What if you just said, well, I guess they're having a bad day today, and just move on? And literally think about anything else. Literally focus your attention away from those words, or away from that event, or away from that person who, in the checkout line, and just focus your attention on literally anything else. Maybe something positive. Maybe you could sit and think about something good, like something you're content about. But literally, just focus your attention on the magazine that's there. Whatever maybe you've got a magazine about Thanksgiving dinners, and just focus your attention on that and think about Thanksgiving dinner for a minute, rather than to focus your attention on what was negative to you, because it spreads. When somebody says something negative or does something negative to you, it spreads to you, and then you start to become negative. You start to focus on all of, well, why did they do that? Why did they say that? Think about it like this too. What if there's something in your life you want? Something you feel like you need in life to be happy? Some collection, some object that you want. Maybe it's a jet ski or a four-wheeler or concert tickets or a vacation or whatever it is. The more you think about that thing, the less content you're going to be in life with right now. The more you're going to get discontent with what you have right now. And so this discontentment is going to do what to your mood? It's going to bring your mood down. And when your mood gets down, everything seems like a problem. Everything makes you cranky. Everything makes you upset. I don't think we pay much attention to what we're thinking about, and that we have the choice to change our thoughts. We have the choice to move our mind away from what has been said, from what we're lacking, from what rude thing somebody did to me. We can move our minds away from that if we can learn to control our minds, and we can think about positive things in our life. Now, this also, think about like dieting. Okay, people struggle for years and years and years with dieting, with trying to get in control of their weight. And you know what every person has in common that has weight issues or has eating disorders? Whatever. I mean, sometimes they can be anorexic, or they can be bulimic. The one thing everybody has in common when it comes to eating disorders is, what are they thinking about? Where's their mind going? Their mind's thinking about food all the time. They're thinking about how to avoid it. They're thinking about how to get it. They're thinking about how to hide it. They're thinking about what they should be eating, what they shouldn't be eating. They're thinking about getting more food. They're thinking about getting rid of the food they ate. Everybody's thinking about food. What could happen in your life if you have an eating disorder? What could happen in your life if you could change your thinking about food and just not think about it? What if you thought about other things? Do you have the ability to control your thoughts? Can you move your thoughts away? If I told you to think about a dog right now, could you think about a dog? Absolutely you can. But it's a discipline, and it can be difficult to learn this discipline. But you can move your mind toward what you want to move it to. So what if you just didn't think about food? I mean, obviously you're going to think about it when it's time to eat, but what if you didn't sit and think about food? What if every time you thought about food, you decided, I'm going to think about something else? It's a discipline. But we're not good at this discipline because we tend to just think about whatever is right in front of us. We tend to think about whatever the consumer-oriented culture shoves in our face, then that's what we think about. And then we don't think about it like it's a thought. We think about it like, no, it's just reality. It's just the way it is. So-and-so said something, and now I need to feel this way, and I'm going to go and get them back and all that. We never think about, well, I have the choice. I could just not think about it. I could just let it go. I could just move away from that thought and move to a different thought. And here's what happens. When your mood is low, everything becomes a problem. Everything becomes a crisis. Everything becomes urgent. And then you go seek out people who will further validate your negative feelings. And the world's filled with negative people that will validate all of your negative feelings about life. But when you're in a positive mood, think about when you're in a positive mood, those things that bothered you when you were down here just seem to go away. And you're better able to make decisions about your life. And you're better able to have wisdom in your life. And problems sometimes work themselves out when you're in a better mood. If you don't make everything into a fight. And the way to do that is to change your thoughts. Is to take this thought that's coming in your mind and say, do I want to obsess over this? Is this a positive thought? You know how you can tell? Listen to your feelings. Your feelings are like a barometer. When you start to feel that anger or that frustration or that upset, that's an indication that I need to change what I'm thinking. Instead of running with that, because it's going to be predictable. When you have the thought that they shouldn't have said that to me, or I can't believe they said that to me, and you start to feel that angst or that frustration, okay? If you stay with that thought, it's going to be a predictable pattern downhill. You're going to continue to roll those thoughts over and that frustration over and over and over in your life while you feel more and more resentment, frustration, and anger. Then you're going to seek out people to go and talk to. Or if you're a direct person, you're going to go talk to that person. How dare you say that to me? I can't. And you're going to ruin the relationship over something somebody probably said when they were way down here. Something they would have never said if they were in a good mood, but they were in a bad mood. Or just realize this, that everybody is free to have their own opinion about everything. Everybody sees the world from their own position. If you understand the Enneagram, everybody has their view of life, their number they're standing on, and how they think, what they think is important. And it's probably not going to be the same things that you think are important in life. And so from their perspective, with all the information that they have growing up and all that they've been exposed to in their life, they can't understand why you did what you did or why you said what you said, and they're going to have a problem with it. And if you can just understand that, you know what, well, that's your point of view from your perspective, and I can validate that, and I can understand that you have your point of view, and I can appreciate that. Doesn't necessarily mean I agree with it, doesn't necessarily mean I care about it, but I can appreciate that you have your, now I'm not going to say all that to them, but if that goes through your mind that you have your criticism because you have your value system, you have your belief system, and you don't have access to all the information, and you don't know everything that was said. All you saw was something I said or did, and it bothered you, and it offended you, and it upset you. And I understand that you live in your world, and in your world you don't appreciate whatever. Then I can just shrug it off and say, that's your view of reality. In my mind, I can say all that. That's that person's view of reality, and maybe they're in a very low mood. And so they're going to say and do things that, you know, I could take personally if I sat and thought about it. But I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to just dismiss it and say, first of all, that's that person's reality. Secondly, they may have been in a low mood. And so they said something or did something they wouldn't normally do if they were in a better mood. And I'm not going to waste my time sitting and thinking about it, worrying about what they think, worrying about how upset they are. I'm going to move my mind away to something else and remain positive, because I can't begin to deal with life if I'm down here. I can't begin to overcome and to face all the challenges if I let myself get down here. So it's a predictable path. If I roll these thoughts around of what somebody said, what somebody did, what they should have done, and my emotions start to go up with this anger and frustration and resentment, that should be a warning to me to stop. Stop what I'm thinking. My emotions are warning me. Stop thinking about this, because it's going to take you down. And when it takes you down, you're not going to have the wisdom when you're in that low point. You're not going to have the wisdom that you need in life. So let it go. So quit thinking about it. I'm in control of what I think about. I'm not always in control of my circumstances, but I'm in control of what I think about. And when I move my mind away from those frustrating thoughts, my mood can go back up, and now I can deal with whatever problems, I have to deal with in life. So it's an interesting thought, isn't it? To think about what you think about and learn to control your thoughts. Everything does not have to become a contest or a competition with other people. Everything does not have to become an argument. If I simply don't feel like I'm going to argue, then there's no argument. And a person can say whatever they want to say and act however they want to act. And if I'm unaffected by it, if I'm immune to it, if I'm immune to it, and I realize that their criticisms aren't necessarily saying anything about me, it's just maybe telling me they have a critical spirit or they feel really critical right now. But if I follow them into it, by letting these thoughts spin around in my mind of how could they say that, and why did they say that, and what did they mean by that, and now I'm upset, and now I'm frustrated, now I'm angry, now we're both down here like this, neither one of us is going to be very rational right now. And we're not going to make a lot of progress right now. And what are the chances that I have of bringing this person back up? Let's say it's your wife or your kid or your husband. What are the chances that I have bringing her up if I'm down here? But if I stay up here and I just let it roll off my back and I don't give it a lot of thought and I just chalk it up to that's the view from your reality and you're in a low mood and in a negative mood, if I stay up here and I just continue being positive and continue being focused and have contentment and peace, and I don't get all anxious and worried that everything in life is going down the toilet and I'm going to lose if I just don't get anxious, there's a lot better chance that this other person will eventually come back up and say, I really didn't mean that. I don't know what got into me. I wasn't feeling very good. I understand. We all get in those moods sometimes. Learning to recognize your mood, learning to recognize what you're feeling, learning to recognize that your thoughts are stuck on something that's not healthy is really the secret to happiness. How to find happiness. You want to be happy. Your natural state in life is to be content and happy, unless your mind is consumed and your thought life is consumed with things that you shouldn't be thinking about. You start to worry and you start to fret that you're missing out on something or somebody said something to you that they shouldn't have said. It'll move you away from that natural state of happiness and contentment. Think about it like this. We tend to feel better when we talk out stuff with people. Like if, let's say you get upset. Maybe your husband was a jerk today and he's been a jerk for the last month, right? And you've been holding it all in. Resentment, frustration, anger, all these mean things he said to you and all this. And you got all this buildup. Your mood has dropped and now you're upset. And then you call up a friend, on the other side of the country, an old friend that you haven't talked to in years, and you just unload all of this frustration and all of this anger and all of this, hurt. You just tell them for an hour and they listen. Let's say they're a great listener and they affirm and listen to you and you get it all out. How do you feel now? You feel better. Did your situation change at all? No. Did your circumstances change at all? No. Did your husband suddenly become, a knight in shining armor? No, nothing changed except what? You talked it out. And when you talked it out, what? You feel like, I don't have to obsess on it anymore because I got it out. I got the words out. I got the feelings out. I got all that emotion out. And now I don't have to obsess over it anymore. And now I can let my mind relax a little bit. And your mind goes back to what? Its natural state of happiness and contentment. At least somewhat it goes back there. That's why talking things out can be so helpful to us, as long as the other person isn't affirming all of our anger and bitterness and making it worse. As long as they're just reflecting it and letting and absorbing it all. When we talk things out, we feel like, well, now I don't have to obsess on it because I got the words out. It's the same thing when we purchase something. I talked about this in the last video. When we purchase something, it's not that acquiring that new thing has made us happy. It's now that our mind can rest from all this obsessing about that thing. When our mind can rest from all this obsessive thought of what I deserve and what I should have and what others should be saying to me and how I should be treated, when we can relax from all that obsessive thought, we go back to our natural state of happiness and contentment. So what if you could just take a breath right now, and without talking it out to somebody and without getting and acquiring what it is you think you need in life, what if you could just go back to your natural state of happiness and contentment now? You can. Isn't it awesome? If you learn to control your thoughts. All right, guys, be present to life. Don't miss what's right in front of you because you're obsessed about what somebody said. They shouldn't have said it. That was mean. People, when they're down here in their low state, are going to say and do things that are going to sound mean and hurtful and not nice. What are you going to do? Are you going to let it bring you down? Or are you going to just stay up here and just say, you know what, I'm going to let it go. That's their view. They were not in a good space when they said it. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to think about other things. Because if I get down here, how am I going to face all that life's got for me if I'm down here? So I'm going to let myself go back to that place of contentment, that place of peace. And as always, guys, be present to life. Don't miss what's right in front of you. And I'll see you next time.